You are watching Kit Kabinet and this is the inbox review of the Airfix RAF Air Sea Rescue launch in 1/72 scale.
Today we have the RAF Air Sea Rescue launch from Airfix. And maybe you think, what's this? This is not a plane. These boats were operated by the RAF to recover pilots who were downed over the sea. A different variant was also operated by the Royal Navy, by the way. But this is the Air Sea Rescue launch, sometimes abbreviated as ASRL. Let's have a look inside. Here we have the main hull. I taped it together for convenience. And the deck goes on top. And then there's also a rear part here, but that's still on the sprue. These little boats are sometimes motorized by RC modelers. And there's enough space in here for a battery and an engine. Airfix products 1978. This thing is over 40 years old. The main model still looks very nice. It's a bit of a model of its time, but not too bad for that age. Now there are several things that are very simplified on this kit, like the rope ladders here. These are, if you can see, for easier release of the mold, these rope ladders are quite straight and weird here at the sides. You can also replace them, of course. And these tow rails here, they are solid. And usually there are some drainage holes in there. And what you could do is like file off the upper edge and then cut these drainage holes in there and then place a piece of styrene strip over that again, so that you have some more realistic tow rails. And with this kit you can of course go totally crazy with aftermarket parts. For the basics there might be a couple of things that you might want to correct or detail a bit, but the basic detail is there. We have a part of the main crew compartment here, early con 20mm gun, some Lewis guns here, and the guns look passable, but they are a bit simplified. And of course, this being a model that's like over 40 years old, a bit basic. The steering compartment, which also looks very basic, it's very Spartan. And then there are these two tubs here. They look very weird. Now what these are, these things go around the machine gun turrets. And what they are supposed to be is a wire frame with watertight canvas over it. But it doesn't really look very convincing. They look very strange. So you could either build the wire frame from copper wire or something that's underneath it and then put something over that, or you can adjust these things to make them look a bit more realistic. They look very awkward like this. These ASRL boats were often customized by the crews themselves, and there are even power boats that don't have these wire frames or these tubs at all. Completely different arrangements of armament. So you might want to customize your own ship. These powerboats were not only used by the RAF but also by the Royal Navy, and they were then often converted to gunboats, so add heavier armament, and then of course you would have to add that armament, but you keep the same basic hull. Some more parts. This is a nice little life raft over here. Some armor. We have an anchor. The other part of the crew compartment. We have some crew members here. Let's see if you can see that. And they look a bit basic but passable. You can turn them into convincing crew people. The only thing For the gunners, they are both exactly the same. You might want to repose a head or a leg or something that they don't look exactly the same. Some more Lewis guns. And here we have the sprue with the top of the crew compartment. Yeah, these things, this is basically the display stand. It's in two parts, and the display stand is a bit wobbly, so you might want to connect these two stands. They go right under the hull, like one part in the front and one part at the rear, and there are two individual things that they might fall over, so you might want to connect these two things together. The transparencies, we have the turret halves. The windows are a bit thick, you won't see a lot of the interior, but you can see something. And well, there isn't much interior to speak of, so here's the 20mm Oerlikon gun sight. It looks a bit awkward, but well, that's the thing that they provided with this kit. You might want to look for a photo etched alternative there. The turrets themselves, they are also very thick, and they have these, yeah, I'll point it. They have these mounts for the Lewis guns in the, yeah, molded into the plexiglass, so to say, which looks, yeah, it's a bit unsightly. They also connect in an awkward way. If you want to put these together, they slide over each other and have a very thick seam here, a location seam, and altogether it doesn't look very convincing. You also have to take care that you don't have any glue residue, so you might want to use either crystal clear or UV glue, or you can rebuild these things, vac form them yourself. It takes a bit more work, but as I said before, a lot of crews customized their boats. Sometimes these turrets weren't even installed, or sometimes just the gun mount was installed without the plexiglass turrets. So there are a lot of variations to be found. And another thing that I mentioned was the Royal Navy gunboat, which also had a different arrangement in armament. The decals and the flag. Let's have a closer look at the decals first. Everything looks very nice. It's nicely in register, so that's good. There's a lot of excess film, like decal film. Here they did print the numbers individually, but not for the larger decals, so you can either trust on your decal solution or maybe cut out the numbers yourself. And then we have this flag. This is basically a sticker. You just peel it off its sticker backing, and it feels a bit thick. If you can find a finer ensign, by all means get one. The instructions, it's a bit difficult to get it all into frame. Stories, English, French, German, Spanish, Swedish, etc, etc, etc. And yeah, basically all the steps to build your boat. As you can see here, it's very basic, especially the interior is very basic. So if you want to add some detail because, well, maybe the glass is a bit too transparent for your taste, might want to add some interior. Of the main crew compartment, there's probably not very much to see. It's probably going to be very dark inside, but if you want to add that detail, by all means. The turrets, yeah, like I said, they're very basic and very 70s in their construction, so they don't look very convincing. If you just want to build a model out of the box, of course you can always do that, but if you want to just add a little bit more detail, a little bit more realism, you can do something about these baskets, these wire frame baskets that I talked about. The Oerlikon is of course a very nice eye catcher here. The one included in the kit looks okay. Of course there are now very nice aftermarket versions that you might want to add here. And once you go that way, it can go pretty crazy, of course. Yeah, the wiring, I suggest you get some photo reference, because the wiring of this ship, if you want to add wiring at all, the wiring of this ship is pretty complex. There's multiple wires here separated with rings. And look up some photo reference if you want to add wires. Here I have a couple of versions that you can build, and there's also this yellow decked version without the Oerlikon cannon. So yes, if you are into Second World War powerboats of the ASRL, this is basically the only game in town. It still looks quite nice for its age. You can add a lot of aftermarket parts, and you can build several different variants. With this base you can in fact do a lot. This kit is a bit tricky to find nowadays, but if you get some model stores, they might still have one lying around somewhere in the back, or otherwise look for it in an online auction. It might just be worth your while.